Hi there, it's Ronan Beckman, author of An Actress of Repute, and we're on the trail of Elizabeth Searle. Behind me is the British Museum. Now, the British Museum used to be a place called Montague House, but the British Museum has been in existence since the mid-18th century. It looked a little bit different. The building behind me, which is being reconstructed, was built in the 1820s, so it looks very different from what Elizabeth Searle would have seen. Now, Elizabeth, I imagine, would have come around here and played and would have been watching all the elegant men and ladies coming to the museum to visit or to do their research and studies. You can all find that in chapter 1 of the book. Hello, author Ronan Beckman here, and this is An Actress of Repute. My main character, Elizabeth Searle, lived where this barbershop is right now. This is 35 Hart Street, which is now Bloomsbury Way. Very busy street, but back then it was much quieter. Hi there, it's author Ronan Beckman, author of An Actress of Repute. I'm at St. George's Church in Bloomsbury, and this is the church where Elizabeth Searle used to dance as a little girl on the steps on the porch. I'm going to show you around a little bit. We'll have a little tour of the church while we're here. So as you can see, it's very busy London nowadays, but it's a very grand building designed by Nicholas Hawksmoor in 1740. Let's go inside and have a look. Hello, this is author Ronan Beckman. This is at St. George's Church in Bloomsbury. I'm on the trail of Elizabeth Searle, and this would have been her local church. She lived just 2 doors away. And up at the very top, you can see the unicorn and the lion and old King George himself. And behind me is the porticos where she would have danced. Hi there, it's author Ronan Beckman, author of An Actress of Repute. I'm at Drury Lane Theatre, but unfortunately it's all covered in scaffolding. You can see what it used to look like behind me here. So I'm reuniting Elizabeth Searle with her first place of work. At its time, Drury Lane Theatre was the tallest building in London outside of a church. So amazing building, and one of the largest theatres in the world probably at that time. Indoor capacity of 3,000 people, and this is in the days before loudspeakers and lighting was candles. Right, we're going to move on to her next place of employment, which is Covent Garden, and that actually is only about 200 yards walk away. Hi there, it's author Ronan Beckman here, author of An Actress of Repute, on the trail of Elizabeth Searle, and this is Theatre Royal, Covent Garden, right? So this theatre's burned down a couple of times, so this is a replacement, a very beautiful one though, and it was a very similar size to what the original theatre would have been. It's now used mostly as an opera house, mostly opera going on now, but back in the day she worked there in the theatre doing plays and pantomimes. This is the other entranceway to Covent Garden Theatre. It's kind of like the backside entrance, and it's changed a little bit over the time, but it's still there the way it used to be. Just for reference, that's Drury Lane behind me, Drury Lane Theatre, where Elizabeth Searle also worked, so she didn't have far to go to another place of an employment. And behind me here is Covent Garden Market. Covent Garden Market was due to be redeveloped in the late 1960s. They were going to bulldoze all this down. Fortunately, they saved it all. Hi there, this is author Ronan Beckman, author of An Actress of Repute, and I'm on the trail of Elizabeth Searle. This is the area that she used to live in. This is lovely Bloomsbury Square. And she just lived around the corner there, about 3 houses down. In the book, in chapter 1, I describe a little bit about her childhood and how she used to go to the British Museum, which was up here, and sometimes play right here in the garden. I wanted to read a little excerpt because a lot of people say I should do a reading. I find that a little bit daunting and a bit scary, but I found a little passage that I'm comfortable reading to you, and it's in the very beginning of the book pretty much, and it's describing Elizabeth's house in Hart Street and the neighborhood that she lives in. Our dwelling on Hart Street was a handsome brick town house equidistant from Bloomsbury Square and the British Museum, with 3 large sash windows facing the street on each of the 4 floors. Light and sound would stream in from the road outside. The Duke of Bedford went to great lengths to prevent traffic, so the area had a rather peaceful air about it. The neighborhood was occupied mainly by professionals, solicitors and surgeons, with a few merchantmen sprinkled through. We were most fortunate to be renting the house at a reduced rate, as a favor from a connection of my father's Aunt Harriet. 2 doors away was the grand, brilliant white spire of St. George's. There was many a time as a child that I would stand staring at the Grecian porticos of the church, transporting my thoughts, I'm rather ashamed to say, to the gods of mythology, rather than to the faith that the building was actually intended. Peculiar in having the main spire located to the side of the church, rather to the front or the back, it was an inspiring setting to set my imagination free. The statuary on top of the tower particularly sparked my imagination as I ran up the steps and played between the great columns of the porch. I would find myself dreaming of riding on the unicorn's back, escaping the fearsome lion, baring his gruesome teeth at me. And I would curtsy to the old King George staring down at me from the very tip of the pyramid-shaped apex, then proceed to perform the latest dance steps that Papa so lovingly taught me, oblivious to my surroundings and the bemused stares from passers-by. I had fond memories of pretending to be a grand lady prancing in front of Montague House as learned men made their way to the great library and museum to pursue their studies. In my mind, they were my footmen and servants, scurrying about to fulfill my latest whims and requests. I took note of all the grand carriages with their fine horses, considering most earnestly which was to be mine. The gardens of nearby Bloomsbury Square afforded me the window to the natural world. Looking skyward towards the stretching branches of the trees, I could temporarily forget the ring of exceptionally fine terraced houses that surrounded me, and imagine myself in the midst of an enchanted forest. I had many freedoms as a child, and the realities of the world of responsible adulthood were now facing me in a most fearsome way. And soon I would no longer have recourse to the magical unicorn of St. George's steeple galloping to my rescue. I looked to little 6-year-old Tom seated before me, rolling bits of his bread into cannonballs and firing them into his mouth. I gave him a look of warning, glancing towards my distracted parents to ensure that he escaped censure this time, and deep inside I found myself envying his youth.